All right, welcome to On Purpose Talk. We have our first guest ever.
Yes.
Yeah. Joey and Judy Salinas. Thank you guys for coming to our living room.
Yes.
Not like
Thank
you guys
for
haven't been here
having us.
before, but
Can you say Salinas again?
Salinas.
Oh, okay.
Salinas. Remember the movie?
Yeah.
Oh, Selena. But they kept saying, Salinas, rewind.
They wanted to keep the bumper. I'm never getting rid of this. This is Salinas' bumper.
I remember that. I think I always crack up because he says rewind instead of reverse.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways.
Rewind.
I'm lost.
Never seen a movie?
The Selena movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the part in the movie. There's
I'm
like,
surprised you would even remember something like that from her.
because
movie.
that's the only part of the movie I kind of remember. I remember like these two like cholo looking guys with like a lowrider car.
Yep.
And she's like in the side of the road and they see her and they're like, Selena, no, it's Salinas, rewind.
Oh, okay.
The only part I remember from the whole freaking movie.
I love it.
Not a great movie, but
Yeah.
that's okay. Well, J-Lo got her break from that, so
That's
Yeah.
true.
yeah, that's true. Anyways, let's start it off.
Yeah. Welcome, guys.
We're gonna get serious
Yeah.
now.
Here.
Just-
Yeah.
Oh, serious.
Thank you guys for having us.
I like
This is
how
amazing.
I like how you guys are like, what are we gonna talk about?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah. You could tell Judy's easy to go with anything. And I'm like, I need a plan. I need to prepare. Did I not study this?
It's like I need to have the right scriptures.
No,
Right.
you know, it's kind of weird when you put the cameras and the mics because
Yeah.
we usually, whenever we get together, we'll talk for. We don't even
Hours.
plan our talks.
No.
So we have a record of talking from breakfast through lunch.
Yep.
Or
Quite a bit.
lunch to dinner.
Wait, no, what was the last time? It was breakfast and then lunch,
Yeah.
right? Was it?
And
Like
what,
we were talking so long, we got hungry and we ordered some.
how about when you would come over during a weeknight and we would talk and you come over at like 8 and then it would be like 2 a.m.
Yeah, and they have to go to work.
Or we go
and your
have
kiddos
lunch.
have to go to work.
Yeah.
And we were still talking. We're like, hey, you want to grab dinner now?
Yeah. Do you want to grab dinner?
Yeah, that's happened. No, what about the time we were talking outside? So we went to go eat dinner. And
Yeah.
then we were talking and then it was like super cold and we were outside
Yeah.
till like 1 a.m. Do you guys
Yep.
remember that?
Yeah, why were we freezing our butt off?
I don't know.
Just on purpose.
I think Stanley said, "Why don't we go back inside?"
That's
Why
it.
don't we
they
grab
had
your-
clothes.
But it's always a thing of like, no, but we gotta go.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
but we gotta go. It's
That,
always.
that might be a Hispanic thing.
I don't know if it's a Hispanic thing because we don't do that a lot with a lot of people.
No.
You guys
Yeah.
are pretty much the only people we do that with. So,
Aw.
We feel special.
so this is why we thought we'd bring you guys in here in a different setting and different kind of lighting because you guys are cool and this is normal.
Yeah.
This is like a everyday thing and you guys are cool. We've known you guys for how long has it been now?
Man. How long have you guys been married?
We're like over 10 years now.
So
Yeah.
probably 11 years.
Yeah.
Because I knew you slightly before you got
Because it
married.
was right before you got married.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And we were at Praise City Church and you
Yeah.
guys were a young couple. How long you guys been married?
It'll be 17 years, so 16 and a half years.
Yeah.
And May will be 17 years married and 20 years together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a
Two
Two
long.
decades.
Yeah, that's
That's
forever.
It's a long time.
2020, look at that. 20 years in 2020.
Yeah. Nice.
How do you put up with Joey, Judy? How do you do it for 20 years? You just make him break things.
Lots
I
of
do.
prayer time.
He's my entertainment.
Break a shoulder time.
You know, it's funny
I saw
you-
that story you posted.
Yeah.
You saw the thing I didn't fail at. That's
Yeah.
all, which is only 10%.
Yeah. I want to see the failed videos.
Yeah.
What were you going to say? I'm sorry.
I was gonna say on the car ride here, I was like, Lord, what do you want us to share on? You know, I know Joey was like, what's their podcast called? And I was like, it's called On Purpose Talk. And one of the things that a couple of things came to my mind, but one of the things that came to my mind, I think that we naturally can talk with you guys about is faith and marriage.
Yeah.
We can talk about Jesus stories for hours and about relationships for hours. But that's one of the things that came to me. And I think one of the things that we've learned, because we were married so young in life, we were 19 when we got married, 16 years old
Yep.
when we started dating. We actually went to the same school in first grade, same field trip.
Yep.
SeaWorld.
Loved me since second grade.
Yeah.
And so we grew up together. But that's the thing, like I've been hearing different sermons and teachings is that we shouldn't choose a spouse or a person based on where we're at in life now. We should choose someone based on where we're going. Because if we don't have someone that can grow and evolve with us, they're gonna be sad or disappointed, or like, hey, you're not who I married, and I want you where you were at. But you want to be with someone that is willing to grow and evolve with you. And if we look at each other and say, you're not the same person, that's actually a good thing. Like, that's good, because we've been growing. Like, the old me would like throw tantrums or things like that. Like, oh, you didn't do what I said, or you didn't meet my expectations. And a lot of like counseling and prayer and finding my true identity in Christ, like, has allowed me to not rely on an individual or a circumstance like for my self-fulfilling happiness. And so a lot of people are like, well, that person completes me, or that person is a soulmate. And it was sweet thinking that, having our high school love letters, like, and it was funny. I think you even mentioned it to me before, that you're like, I didn't know what love was. I thought I loved you, but he's like, that was an immature kind of love until I realized, until we actually started going through stuff, and the vows that you say actually begin to get tested. Is like, okay, now do you really mean what you said when you were experiencing those things? And keeping a balance of it all, like knowing each other. Like there's times where he's like, hey, I think you, like, he'll say like, take some downtime or don't answer your phone, because we work together. So people have told us, how do you not get sick of each other? You work together, you do this and you do that. And it's like knowing what, respecting one another's space as well, knowing like, hey, don't take it personal. They're just hangry, when you're hangry, you're like, then he feeds me and I'm fine. I forgot what I was upset for. Or with him, I know like, hey, I think you need to like go to the gym and have your boxing class. And like, it's like his therapy. He comes back like so happy. And so we begin to learn those things about each other too.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting how, 19 years old is kind of young.
yeah.
You guys have a daughter. You have two kids,
Yep.
Nadia and Aiden, who are talented and awesome. I love those kiddos. And
little
Nadia is
guys.
about to be the age you guys.
Yeah.
How old is
Scary.
Nadia?
17. She just turned 17 this
17.
month.
So
So in
17.
2 years.
I know.
So you see that and you go, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like, that's where we were at that age,
Yeah.
and we thought we knew.
yeah.
We thought we had it figured out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though we didn't, we were like, no, but as long as we have each other, we have love. We
Yes.
could conquer all.
That's it.
And that's a kind of a romantic.
I did feel that way.
It's a romantic idea sometimes, but it's also unrealistic in a lot of ways, And you see that
Yeah.
now in retrospect, I'm sure. And so there's like, because I see a lot of kiddos that live for that moment. That's their whole life they're living, but they're not thinking ahead. Just like saying like, all right, think about who you're gonna be with for the long run and what
Yeah.
where you want to go.
Right.
And those are stuff that you see now later.
Yeah.
And you go, man, that was so selfish.
Yeah.
Like, that's for
Yeah.
me. That's like one thing for
Yeah.
me. Like seeing 10 years, I'm like, man, my love was selfish. I was.
Yeah.
Like it was just a selfish thing. I thought by doing something as a man, I was already providing love, but there was so many other aspects that I was like not seeing that.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. We tell people all the time when we talk to youth or young adults, don't plan to do what we did, because 9 times out of 10, you're going to fail. You don't even know who you are at 19. Let's be honest. What we liked at 19, we didn't like at 29.
Right.
And at 29, not what we liked at 39. And so things change. And we tell people, don't prepare for, the slight chance that you might know who you are right now. You're going to change. You're going to evolve, like what Judy was talking about. You're going to be down the road. But you have to literally say, man, what are my dreams? We told Nadia and Aiden this, like, you should put your limit of who you might want to be in life with as somebody that doesn't stop you from your dream. and somebody that dreams as big as you do. Because then they're no longer fulfilling something that you need to complete you.
Yeah.
They're complementing a life lived out with you.
Right.
And that's a big difference. We just, by God's grace, by prayer, by counseling, by forgiveness, I think
Lots of forgiveness.
Judy got a real husband 2 years ago. I'm just joking. But she's like, no, I'm not. You're not joking. But
Well, you guys kind of come a long way, and you guys are in a place right now where you guys are doing something totally different from when I first met you guys, but it's not surprising. We always joke around. I used to call Joey Reverend Joey. I still do mess around. If you see him in the streets, say what's up to Reverend Joey. He likes being called Reverend.
yeah, not at all.
Just kidding. Anyways,
And I used to call him Pastor Stanley.
Pastor Stanley. That's right.
Even if he was, playing at a wedding or something, I'm like, that's Pastor Stanley.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get each other pretty good at that.
Yeah.
I think that's a long running joke between us. And so, what are you guys doing right now, so that people that don't know you may just know a little bit about what you guys are doing right now?
Okay. Tell him, babe. Tell him what we do.
You want to answer? Okay, what don't we do? Okay. So we work for Church for the Nations, and we're kind of like, I guess, assistant pastors there. Our pastor travels a lot, so whenever he needs anything or any coverage, like, we're usually kind of the ones that will do that for him. We also run the School of Ministry there, which is a 9-month program. We went through the program almost
5.5, 6 years ago.
Yeah, almost 6 years ago. And basically it's broken up into 5 blocks. Each block is 5 weeks. So you get a 3-week break in between, and it has an emphasis. Each block has a different emphasis on like, learning to discern God's voice. Like, how do I know he's speaking to me? What does it mean when I keep, seeing the same number or vision in a dream? What does it mean when I see this? And teaching and empowering people that they can hear God. They don't need a title to hear God. And that he speaks, and he wants to speak, and he wants to use us. And then seeing the transformation in students when that's applied, it has been amazing for them to step out in obedience and share like prophetic words, or learning to fall in love with the word. Block 2 is like called transformational theology. And we've had so many people healed from religiosity of like, they had to consecrate, they had to fast, they had to read the word, and it was like a checklist. And it's more on like learning to fall in love with the word, and it wasn't something boring, and learning to understand it. And then so every block has something. Right now we're in number 3.
Yep.
So it's like leadership impact. We have different guest speakers. One of our pastors and mentors, Dr. McCrae, he's amazing. And then the final one is really providing internships for them, and like empowering them in like the sphere of influence they're led to be in the world, whether that's like in government or education or arts and media, entertainment, dance, church, family, and things like that. So every year, although we graduated over 5 years ago, it feels like we're going through it again, and students, and we're like, oh, we already graduated. Why does it feel? But it's always like a new level, a new layer that God is taking us through, because you can't take someone through something you haven't been through first.
Wow. Yeah. I've sat through a couple of you guys' classes, and seeing you guys teach that was kind of like a proud moment for me as a friend for you guys, as a brother, because I'm seeing you guys do what you guys are called to do. Amen. And it's to empower other people. And you guys are leaders, and you guys have always been the type of leaders that don't really care about the title. And then we mess around with the title just to like poke fun of each other. Yeah. But you guys really do care about people, and I love what you were talking about. It's almost like people have to come to rehab from religion.
Yes. That is
And I believe, Christianity and what they call it, following God, is not really a religion. It's like a relationship.
Yep.
Yes, you as a husband and as a wife, you have a couple of things, you have to do, but for the most part, it's the communication that leads you to where you guys can move forward, and with God is the same way.
Yep.
There is no list of stuff, it really is following him and following
Yeah.
what he has called us to do. And then, we know where we are in our life, where he wants us to go because of the communication.
Yeah.
He's not an angry God waiting to just pound on us.
Yeah.
He's given us an open invitation to salvation. And through that, we understand that, well, then what does it mean to live out who we are in him,
Yeah.
and finding our purpose in that. And then that's what we start, humans put all these rules. We love putting rules, and everything. We put everything in. I don't know what this is, but let's put it in a bottle and let's fill it up and let's
Title
bottle
it.
up and put a title on it. Here you go, Christianity. This is exactly what everyone's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
And it's like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Jesus himself, if you read, he came to break the mold. I mean, he came to break all the norm, what everyone thought was the norm, what all these humans kept putting all these rules on. And he's like, this is not how God's kingdom works,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like at all. So
Yeah.
I that's awesome. So when everyone takes this school, what happens to them? What do they do?
Well, that's a great question. I think a lot of them take it for different reasons. So I always, when somebody asks me, hey, what do I get after it? I say,
Do you
what did you,
become a
what did
pastor,
you,
or do you-
yeah, do you become a pastor? Do I get to lead a ministry? I mean, all those things could happen. Like at our church, it's a requirement to be a pastor. You have to go through the school.
Right.
But I like asking this question. What are you looking for? Because what's going to happen afterward is determined by what you were looking for to get it.
Right.
Most of the people that are coming to the school wanted to have a clear sense of what it is to actually follow God, what it is to hear God. And their impact when they understand who they are and that they hear from God on a regular basis, that launches them in what they were called to do
Right.
with a trueness that they've never had before.
Yeah.
So if somebody came in, I mean, we have people from a large gamut of places, from people that are in politics to people that are teachers to, I mean, we have like 4
Business.
pastors, business owners. I mean, all these people. But the reality is that they don't feel like they can truly know who they are and operate at the fullness until they get a grasp that God is with them anywhere they're at.
Right.
So they leave with a better sense of self and a confidence that God is with them.
Right.
And
Yeah.
man, when you have a better sense of yourself and a confidence, you leave out of graduating the program, going back into what you're called to do with this knowing.
Right.
I mean, when you know who you are, I mean, you need to think about it in all kinds of different industries. How many times do people change their look alone
Right.
to try to fit into a certain mold? It's because they don't know who they are.
Right.
When they know who they are, then it becomes something that's not needed. So now they can just really focus on their skill set, their
Right.
aptitude, their capability, and really pour into that field. So they leave with that. A lot of people utilize our students for outside ministries. We have, I think, like 12 different churches involved in the School of Ministry. So CFTN isn't the only people that come.
Yeah, it's really
I mean,
because it's not just, it's open to anyone.
Yeah.
You can put your mic closer, Duty.
Yeah,
So
there
you
you
can
go.
relax. So you can
There
relax
you
and
go.
put it as close as you want.
Yeah,
What were you
so-
saying? I'm
I'm
sorry.
very
What were you
cozy
saying?
here.
What were you saying?
It's open to anyone. People have asked that, like, oh, do we have to be a member here to attend the school? Absolutely not. We have students all over the nation. So we have students in Romania. We have students in Canada, Texas, Utah, UK, new believers that just gave their life to Christ, and people like Joey said, that are pastors and have been seasoned for a while, and they just felt like, I just need some sort of refreshing. I need something to pour back into my team and my leaders. And that's
cool.
been really healthy to see. We
Yeah.
became friends with a couple of them really well. They invited us to their church because they're just seeing just the authenticity where it's not, we honor our pastor, and it's not a church, it's a school. It's a school of ministry. So when people hear that, it's like, well, I don't want to take it because I'm not trying to be behind the pulpit. We've seen people just take the knowledge, like Joey says, being empowered in a stronger sense of self. What does that mean? That means you stop blaming other people for your problems, and you start taking accountability, and you allow yourself to grow and evolve in who God wants you to be. And you take that knowledge where you go. And we've seen someone that owned their own business, very wealthy, and they took that knowledge and learning to discern God's God's voice, went in a meeting, and God immediately told them, don't make this deal. And everyone else was making this deal with this person. And because they honored that, they saved themselves out of like
$3 million
$3 million
Wow.
loss
Wow.
in
Yeah.
their business.
It's awesome. So it's also an online school.
It's an online school as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So we have about 140 in-person students and about 85 online students. And like we were talking about, all over the nation, we have 22 international students.
Yeah.
A couple of them actually came to visit. They love the school so much, they were tracking their vacations to come down to be in class
That's
with
so
us
cool.
and bring their families.
We
But
have one from visiting right now from Canada and two from Romania,
two-
three from Romania
three
right
from
now.
Romania.
Wow.
But the School of Ministry, I feel like I didn't answer that to the full capacity.
Go for it.
The word ministry is a cool word in Greek, and it means the distribution center for God's charities. So that's what it means. So when you go to the School of Ministry, it means to learn to be a good distribution center for God's charities.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
mean, that alone should tell you that's not formed in a four-wall building.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, church is where you live.
Right.
Church is when you go to the grocery store. I mean, church
Exactly.
is everywhere because you bring the distribution center for God's charities everywhere. So when you have a great conversation with somebody, when you pay attention to somebody that nobody pays attention to, when you say hello to your drive-through person, when you get
Yeah.
to know a relationship with a neighbor, you're becoming the distribution center for God's charity. Your hello could have saved a life.
Yeah.
And so that's what you get. You get to learn to be a good distribution center.
That is so cool.
And the testimonies we're hearing just blow us away. Like when we feel tired or weary, hearing these is just a reminder of like, this is why you're doing what you're doing. Keep pressing, keep going. We got a package in the mail, and it was this
yeah.
book called What's in Your Purse, and the author was there, a picture on the back, and we're like, we don't know this person. That's nice. They just sent us a free book. And then there was a letter, and I wish I would have brought it with us today.
Yeah.
And she wrote out this letter saying that on the fourth Sunday of every month, we have School of Ministry night. So our students run the service, and we have either Joey or I would speak, or one of our leaders or something. And she basically said she doesn't even remember who prayed for her that night. She was visiting from Wisconsin, and they prayed for her and told her, I see you as an author. I see this and this and this. And she's like, I was going through such fear and insecurity. And she's like, and this was like 6 months ago. And she's like, and I wanted to mail you guys my first book, and I want to bless your entire class with it because your students were so loving and speaking life into my life. And so it was so amazing. Joey read it to the class a couple weeks ago and showed her book, and they were clapping. And it's those testimonies and seeing them stepping out in faith. Like one person wrote, someone else, we had like, we call them activations. Basically, it's like, you're not just reading the word, but now it's like, let's put it into practice, into action. And that's what we call it, activation. So we each got, they had to pick up an item that was owned by someone else, but they didn't know who owned it, whether it was a cell phone, a pen, whatever that item was. And they had to like just kind of pray over the item and ask the Lord, like, God, whoever owns this, give me something timely that they need to hear. Like, what do they need to hear? And this person was doubting that they could hear God for themselves because they just saw a door and they saw the word surgery.
Yep.
And so they wrote down exactly what they saw, and they were so hesitant. They were the last one to turn it in because they're like, no, I'm wrong. So they just ended up, they were obedient. They stepped out in faith. They wrote, God is closing the door to surgery. And that person picked it up, and they came up and shared a testimony, and they said, whoever wrote this, I've been in surgery for 7 years, and I've been asking God, are you changing my field of career or not? You have to give me a sign. And so the person that stepped out in faith
So
started
cool.
crying because they're like, I didn't think I could ever hear God. I didn't think he could speak to me. And so it was amazing. That brought them like kind of like talking and sharing that, and just hearing those things. Just even when we say, hey, you don't have to see or know the person in front of you, randomly call someone or message someone in a group. They got together, and we got a testimony that someone got a call of encouragement right when they were feeling suicidal.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. And those are the awesome things that like make an incredible difference. And that is a reminder of like, you know, someone is waiting for your yes on the other side.
And you know what? It's all about obedience.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's where it starts. When you realize that I need to know more. I need to, it's that hunger that you get, like, I want to hear God's voice.
Yeah.
Some people are okay just having a Sunday relationship, right?
Then you're starving.
The check-in.
They go and they clock in or check in, and then go back home and it's okay. I did my church, I did my thing, and that's it. But some people hunger for more, and they want to know God's voice. They want to hear Him.
Yeah.
And when you start learning how important that is, and you are obedient, because we're supposed to know God's voice, then God only knows what can happen.
Yeah.
I mean, look at all these great testimonies we're listening to.
Well, it's important to talk because people are looking at us. People are seeing us. People see people who go to these churches, and they spend their time in that room, and they're going, okay, but they're doing stuff, but I don't see it.
Yeah.
Right. Where's the fruit?
They walk out of there and they're more pissed off because they're missing the game. They're more angry. They treat me rude. You know what I'm saying? We're not at the forefront as for some changes culturally that needs to happen, or, we're always the quiet ones. We're always where are they? Is God even real?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, through our lives, through all 4 of our lives, I think we've seen God move in many ways where it was like, there's no doubt in my mind that God exists.
Yeah.
There's just no
Absolutely.
doubt. But how do you show that to someone who that's all they do is just doubt and doubt?
Yeah.
And they, what do you talk to them? What do you tell them?
Yeah.
What do you think? What did they tell you, Pastor Joey?
Yeah.
Well, and it's a broad question, but also just like, how can I see God real in my life and not necessarily have to go to the school, let's say, for that moment,
Right.
but just like small steps that I can say, I want to know if God's real.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah.
We practice this question with our kids because in teaching them, and our son's very analytical and how to evangelize. If we even did a mock question, well, I don't believe. Well, if God is real, then why did so and so pass away, and why did this happen? Why did that happen?
Right.
I'll let you start, and I have something after you. Yeah.
I think that we underestimate how unique each person is. So when somebody comes to me how do I know that God's real? I say, let's look at your life. What are you good at? What do you love? How are you different than somebody else in your family and around you, who you are? I mean, God is the creator. And so when you start to think about all the things that are different about you than they are about somebody else, it didn't happen in a big bang that all this stuff came together and now you just existed with unique characteristics. Different. God is so desires to put His fingerprint on who you are, but He wants you to realize that He's given you these talents. I tell this to all people all the time. I say, your future is God's past. He said that I created you before the foundations of the earth. Before you were an accident to your parents, you were purposed by God because He knew that He had to make you quirky. He knew that He had to make you creative. He knew that He had to make these things, you quiet, you an introvert, you an extrovert. He knew these things because there's only certain people that you could reach because you're uniquely made.
Exactly.
And so we were made to find God in other people.
Yeah.
And so
Yep.
I think what religion's done is it makes you look at people through the lens of your relationship instead of looking at them through the lens of how God made them.
Yeah.
When we celebrate people's differences, when we celebrate people's talents and characteristics, we celebrate God the Creator.
Yeah.
And I tell them this, what would you say if I told you God made you exactly how you are to make an impact for the certain area that only you could reach? People have a doubt from God, not because they don't think that He could exist. They have a doubt for God because they don't think they can make an impact.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think that's a challenging question, yet at the same time, there's such simplicity in it that we try to empower our own kids and challenge one another and in the classroom as well, that if we can not know a stranger and say we hate them, why can't we look at them and say we love them? And that's really essentially what it is. And when someone's saying like, how do I know God is real? Or how do I know God speaks to me? Or, I always get the very interesting things that happen to me. Like, and Joey leaves me alone. I'm like, where's he at? Where's he at? Why didn't this happen to him?
Coffee time.
Like people
Where's
coming up
Master?
to me, telling me like, tell me if I have demons in me, or tell me this, like all the time. It just happened to me last week. But one of the things that happened to me was a young woman came up to me, and she was just enraged, and she was angry. She was visiting church, and she was upset about like the interview application process for school. Just angry, came at me with like already with rejection before she wasn't even rejected. And so I could have in my flesh been like, I'm done talking to you. You're being very rude and disrespectful. But the Holy Spirit was beginning to reveal to me how hurt and broken and abused she had been. So I sat there and I took it, and I was like, God, is this what you mean by saying turn the other cheek? Because when is it to the point where like I should call security? Like,
Right.
And
It gets scary.
Yeah, it could. And she was, and I can tell that that wasn't necessarily her speaking through her eyes. And I said, I need to do something. I need to be obedient. God is asking me to pray with you on behalf and apologize on behalf of your perpetrators. And she looked at me and I said, may I hold your hand? And I can tell she was very guarded, very afraid. And she let me hold her hand. Like the tips, like the fingertips, like kind of like that. Yeah. And I started to pray, and God's mercy like wrecked me, and I started crying because I started to feel all this compassion towards his daughter, and I started to feel all these things, and he began to show me her and brokenness and abuse, and that she was abandoned and taken advantage of. And then she started yelling and saying like, stop it, like you're making my demons angry. I just want to choke you right now and hurt you, and literally telling me this to my face. And I was like, no. I said, God loves you so much. God loves you so much. Like, I'm sorry that you were treated this way. He's so sorry that you went through this. And I was just finishing what God was having me do. And she was so angry and so upset and was like, give me my hand back. She's like, you're making my demons angry and I just want to hurt you. And so yes, there's a second part to this story. So after that happened, I was like, oh Lord, like, please don't let that happen to me again. Like, she just kind of like stepped away, walked away, and was like, fine, thank you. And like left kind of. Wow. Well, 3 weeks later, I see her again from a distance, and I was like, oh, I'm running. I'm running. I'm not doing this again. And she ends up catching up to me, and she said, I need to talk to you. And she had tears in her eyes, and she said, God didn't let me sleep for the last 3 weeks until I apologized to you. He told me, how dare you talk to my daughter that way? She loves me, and she was loving you through me, and she was explaining to you how much I love you. So you need to apologize to her, because she loves you and she loves me, and she was being obedient. And she's like, and he wouldn't leave me alone. He wouldn't let me sleep until I found you. And she's like, and you're an authentic person. You love God. And she's like, I'm so sorry. And a person who barely let me hold her hand, who was very guarded, like jumped and hugged me. And I started crying. She was crying. And to answer your question is, we can all find one person to love.
Yeah.
That's it. That's how we prove God is real. I did not preach scripture to her. I did not cast out any demons out of her. Although I knew what spirits were in there, God did not say that. He said, I want you to stand in mercy. I want you to apologize. And that just shows you how much power there is in love, and how much power there is in mercy and forgiveness alone. I shared this with the class last week, but God had me teach on Hosea and Gomer. And Hosea was a prophet, well known. And for those that don't know the story, and he was asked by God, like, you're gonna marry Gomer. a prostitute.
Right.
And it's like, really, God, can I at least pick a faithful woman? No, he didn't have a chance.
Right.
Not only did he have to marry Gomer, he had she bore him 3 children. And the first one, God's like, you're going to name him this, which means not my people. And then his daughter, he's like, you're going to name her this, which means not loved. Then the third son, he's like, you're going to name him this, which means like for God's punishment or something like that. Like basically it's like Hosea had to marry a prostitute, name his kids really bad things. And when he was begging for mercy, like, God, punish my wife, like, how dare you have me? She stepped out on grace on our marriage. And he's like, Hosea, you're asking for the wrong thing. You're asking me for mercy and to rebuke your wife, but I want you to beg for me for the people of Israel, because he had Hosea marry Gomer in representation of Israel's sins, because she was from there and doing the same thing. And so in Hosea 6:6, he said, Hosea, go back and love your wife. He didn't say go back and rebuke her, go punish her, go divorce her, go leave her. He said go love her. And that love healed her to the point where he said buy her back. So when he bought her back, Hosea stayed abstinent.
Wait, explain the buying back. Explain the buying back.
Yeah. So
why do you have to buy her back?
Because she left him and went back into prostitution.
She went with her pimp.
And she went back, and Hosea tried to stop. He put a thorn bush. He did things to try to derail her, and she started getting restless in their relationship and started going back into the promiscuous lifestyle.
She was just unfaithful over and over and over. Yeah.
And it's a biblical reason to leave your spouse, right? But instead of God saying like, yeah, go ahead and leave her, you're right, she's hurt you, God's like, no, love her. And so I'm like, oh Lord, like I couldn't imagine like the weight when I read that over and over. But God was like, you're all Gomers in some sense. Whether you're prostituting fear or you're prostituting this or you're prostituting that, we all run back to something. And he's like, but you know what? The beauty of it is that God's love allowed Hosea to love his wife out of addiction, because he said, we're going to stay abstinent. You're not going to go back to men, and I'm not going to have sex with you until you no longer want this. And as a husband, he restrained his physical needs and wants and stayed abstinent with his wife to help heal her. And then that brought healing. That was a representation of what God was going to do in the land of Israel, because Hosea was obedient. And Gomer's name means completion, and Hosea's name means help.
Help and completion.
Come on.
So I get passionate about this stuff because it's just so much.
I love it.
It's so simple.
I mean, that's
love.
just a taste of how they teach. I mean, it's just like, I love that. And it also shows God's love. Number one, there's a lot of people who sometimes will be like, I'm too bad for God.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the thing is,
true.
and there's so many people in church. I grew up in church. So I see, there's many people in church that they're too bad for church. That's their mentality and that's their attitude. And so they both reject each other.
Yeah.
And let me break it down to some people. Church isn't that building you go to. We are the church. That's what we were called to be. And we were called to be like Hosea and go back and love her. Go back and love him. Go back.
That's right.
Just go back and be like, well, okay, I'm gonna push through with you.
That's good.
Right? Because everybody wants to go, well, you should just pray. And then
get fixed. Go get fixed.
away
And then we'll
come
talk.
back clean.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it's like, we can't, this is just in life too. We can't ever assume we know what everyone's going through. We can't assume that everyone's in the same place we are in.
Yeah.
This is why we have so much hate, and this is why we have so much disappointments, and because we want everybody. I mean, we're in a culture where we want everybody to feel like us, to be like us, to look like us, to do things we do, and it's so not it. We are individuals. We're unique, and according to how we've been brought up and how we were raised, or whether we're in situations that we don't like. What is it that we're supposed to learn from that? What is it that we're supposed to learn about others as well, and how can we be compassionate to each other? And the church should be the first one leading that, and being upfront. So I love that you guys are bringing that to the school and bringing, who we are. When we realize who we are, we don't worry about what other people are and how bad we want to be like them.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's in every aspect of life, whether you want to be a pastor or whether you want to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't worry about, the last podcast we were talking about a little bit about her story. And, she wanted to be a dancer and she saw herself being a dancer in the theater. And it became to a point where hip hop wasn't even a fad. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But she was like, I still want to do it.
Yeah.
Like so many people give up on that. So many people give up on who they are because it's not a fad.
Yeah.
You're never going to be out of style.
Yeah.
That's right.
Because you're unique is what this world needs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whatever background you come from, your culture will come from, whatever. That's what this world needs. Now, we've come to understand that through God, because God puts us back to zero. Mm-hmm. Everything that was in the garden, everything that was created when God created man and woman was there. Everything that was in there, all the utilities and tools we needed to build a city was already there. Nothing was built ever again. Mm-hmm. Now humans started creating just like God creates, because we were made in His image, and we are creative beings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And sometimes we want people, or we want God to tell us exactly who we are, what to do. And He's like, be creative and figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a discovery adventure. We should see it that way.
That's a beautiful thing to discover.
What if we looked at when we embrace the things that we love as our worship to God? Mm-hmm. When we don't do what we were created to do, are we denying that He made something good in you?
Yeah.
I mean, you're a talented dancer and very creative, and man, if you need your house redecorated or something, you should come and see Dandy for sure. And you're a masterful musician. If you denied what God put in you, and preacher, he is a preacher. As you can tell, some of it was coming out. He just does not. Yeah, we're going to put him in situations where he has to. But I mean, if you were to deny ever singing again because of something that you lacked or didn't know if it was God, what if that's your statement to God, saying, I don't believe you made me. Mm-hmm. I don't believe you made something well. So when we exercise what we've got put inside of us, we're worshiping God. We're like, thank you, God. Our exercising of our gifts and talents are our thank you to God.
That's right.
And so it's cool. Why do people not believe? It's not that they don't see Jesus manifested, because that would, right? He doesn't have to come and appear to us to see it. It's because there's not enough people walking out the character of Christ. Correct. So they don't see Christ in people, and therefore if they don't see Christ in people, Christ doesn't exist.
Yeah. And we kill comparison in the world when we walk in our own identity.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing.
And I tell people this all the time, because I think it's wonderful to have mentors and pastors, and I listen to certain preachings and certain preachers and things like that. I think it's amazing to respect and honor people and admire. It's when it goes from like honoring and admiration to coveting, that it's kind of saying like, God, you didn't make me good enough. Or like, you want that thing that other person has. And so it's so important to empower and embrace like what He's giving you and not dismiss that. And also being careful, like what you're asking for, like, I want that person's, musical gift. I want that person's speaking gift. Like, I want that person's this, and you don't know what it costs them either. Sometimes we ask for their crown without the crushing, and we're not willing to go through their crushing. We just want the anointing that flows from them. But we don't realize like how many hours it costs them on their knees, on fasting and trials, etc. How many near-death experiences they've had, or things like that, until we hear that, and I tell them, be careful, because we don't want to leave a season prematurely that God's like, I'm using this to develop you, so that when I take you to where I want to take you, it doesn't crush you or kill you. It was making you mature, and it was making you ready and steady, so that when you're there, your head doesn't explode in arrogance. Instead, you can be like, God, thank you. It comes in gratitude and humility, because you're trust muscle has grown and developed with him.
Ready and steady. Look at that. Rhymed. Sounded good.
I think we see that culture now, how we praise people and what we want.
Yeah.
We follow people because they have what we don't have, and we look at ourselves like, oh. But, if we're thriving to make a difference just in our surroundings,
Right.
success can come in many shapes and forms.
Yeah.
Your success might not be my success, but it might still be the success I wanted because of what we wanted to achieve.
Yeah.
And has nothing. Money comes and goes. But if you're impacting someone's life, I feel like it makes a lifetime of a change.
Yep.
You can buy a CD and someone can just buy a CD and go, oh, okay, that's it, and that's the extent of it.
Yeah.
But buying music and you kind of go, man, like this is different. It's makes me want to love my wife more. You know what I'm saying? Makes me want to love my neighbor more. Makes me want to love people. Makes me just feel more positive. Makes me look at romance in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? And I'm not expecting weird things. We expect the weirdest things from each other because for some reason we see them in the movie or we see them somewhere and we're like, that's not reality, And we talk about this all the time. And even in our marriage, we're like, a lot of that stuff is fantasy. That's not real. I mean, what's the realest thing? There's nothing like a good day in the couch, watching TV, and our pups right there just laying down and knocking out like this little black one right here. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's like, and most people have this illusion of being like in a very like picturesque, Instagrammable restaurant with the waves crashing and the dress flowing and the hair going.
Right.
And it's like, that does not happen.
And plus, your hair could flow, but mine won't flow.
It's getting there, bro.
It's true.
Getting there.
How many times have you seen my hair grow?
One of the
Quite a
things,
bit.
that I see with that, so funny because God had shown me about that. Like, we have, even from movies of today, like Twilight with like the love there, the pursuit, and then to all the way from Disney, like Cinderella and Beauty and the Beast and all these things, that I was like, what is the common theme here? Whether it's a cartoon movie or a movie that you see today, is that there's always a pursuit. And we are chasing the desire and the dream and the fantasy of wanting to be, who doesn't want to be pursued? Every woman wants to be pursued. But God was like revealing to me, like, that's like a fantasy because like, that's the only one that pursues you that way is me. Like my pursuit and chase for you is never going to stop. Like I will stop. I will go longer than a vampire, longer than the Cinderella story. Like he will go longer than that, and like it's a chase and a pursuit and like a unending love for us, and it's a beautiful thing. Like your favorite scripture, that God, we didn't choose him, but he chose us. Like it's a beautiful thing to know. Like wow, we're chosen to be wanted and chosen and pursued.
Right. In spite of who we are.
In spite of,
I know.
Yeah. Well, God, because many people may think like, okay, well, God's pursuing me tonight, but what, am I going to be a weirdo? And what does that do? I'm just going to be this weird, like almost like how people think of cat ladies, but instead of the cats as God.
Yeah.
and what they don't know is like, once you enter that relationship with God, you understand love with your spouse.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And you go, you understand love with your kids. You understand love with your friends. You understand love with your family. You understand love in a totally different way. And that before maybe it was unhealthy, or before it was like rejection, or before it was like abusive. It changes that because it brings you back to zero. The Bible said God is love.
Yeah.
That's where the essence comes from. What do I do with that love? I just go, thank you for that love. Or is it for me to pour out?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, because a lot of people get afraid of that. They get afraid of this notion of God being my first love. And even Christians.
Yeah.
They get afraid of this
like,
notion.
Why would God go after me? Like I don't understand that, because I've heard that a lot.
Yeah.
And I think in that, it's like when God goes after you, I think he's giving you the opportunity to get to know him.
Yeah.
Because then after that, forget it. You just, you want to love on him. You want to get to know him better. And, you know, you want to be obedient to his voice. You want to, everything. Like, you almost don't want to do anything without him. Like, is this okay? Like, do I really want to go there? Do I want to, you know?
Yeah.
That's so true.
The problem, I think, is two-sided. Sometimes people can't love because they don't believe themselves worthy of receiving love. And you can't pour out something you didn't receive. You know, because he chose you. That's what that is translated as. He's like, instead of I love you, why don't we change it? God's saying, I chose you. So it's more of a choice than a feeling. That's why people in marriages say, oh, I fell out of love. No. You fell out of choice.
Yeah.
You stop choosing them every day. You stop choosing to love them regardless of their imperfections, or you stop choosing them that way. So really, when we don't believe that God chose us, then we can't choose other people through something that we did not receive.
Yeah.
And then what does he say? He's like, oh, these two greatest commandments. Love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Not love your neighbor as I loved you. Love your neighbor as yourself. Because somebody that was chosen has to accept so that they could choose something that they were originally chosen for. And so there's two kinks in why we don't love people. We don't receive love, or we don't think people are worthy of it because our being chosen we thought was in our righteousness. What I did right, what I did good. I fasted a long time. I went to church every day. I went to Bible study. Well, great, because God would choose you if you stopped doing every single one of those things. A lot of pastors won't say it from the pulpit because they don't want to keep people from coming to church. But the reality is, God will choose you if you stop doing all of that stuff. He doesn't choose you more. He doesn't have a capacity to choose you more or choose you less. I chose you while you were yet a sinner. While you were yet rejecting me, I chose you. So you receive it regardless of where you're at. And when you receive it regardless of where you're at, you can give it freely. Because then you start seeing people as, man, if God chose me and I'm broke, busted, and disgusted, like I've done things, been places, I've thought thoughts or whatever it is that you've been through. If you realize that you were chosen regardless of your behavior, then you don't look at other people's behavior as being love worthy. And so it changes everything, man, when it's not loving like a feeling, but loving like a choice.
That's good.
Yeah.
I say we wrap it up with that.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Now, you guys have Instagram. Where can they follow you guys?
She has Instagram.
She has Instagram. She's always posting inspiring stuff and motivational stuff. Where can they find you on your Instagram?
So my personal family one is JJNA Salinas, and then our school one is CFTN SOM. Right, at CFTN SOM.
And if they want to enroll, when is the next time to enroll at the CFTN?
The next class starts March 2nd, and deadline is...
a week before that. So
January 26th, I think.
Yeah.
And you guys are always at church as well, like one way or another, leading, doing stuff.
Yeah.
They're helping out.
Yeah. And we also get the opportunity to take the school and like students and empower them and go to other churches outside of where we're at and
do like workshops.
Do workshops, empower them, and that's really neat too. We actually have one coming up February 5th at another campus and a few other ones. So
that's awesome.
So it's awesome to get to do that.
It's fun, man. This is fun. Man, that's the goal. Bring following God as a fun, ordinary lifestyle.
Yeah.
That's it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, these are two people that know what they're talking about. They don't only teach it, but they live it, and we have been a witness to that. And that's why I thought it'd be kind of cool to bring them, because, man, they have so much to give for real. And come and check them out. Follow Judy on her Instagram. Follow them on their CFTN SOM School of Ministry, and just see what God is doing in their lives. And I don't know, if you have questions, I'm sure there'll be. Joey really likes to answer questions. The hardest ones.
He loves it.
The hardest ones.
Why do I always get the hardest one? No.
You get questions, I get prayers.
Judy gets prayers, I get questions, and I always get the critics.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So man, it's fun though.
It's okay.
I love them. You got to love the critics.
Maybe it's your vibe, bro. It's your vibe.
Maybe it is. It's probably the jacket I wore. I don't know.
I do
like the jacket. That's cool. cool.
Thank you, brother.
I do feel like someone, I felt like God wanted me to release this, but I felt like someone was going to listen that was having some issues with one of their children, like a son or something. So I just want to tell you that he hears you. He hears your prayers for your child. And he is so good. And we just declare that things will work out. And we thank you, God, that you love them and you hear them. And you're hearing their prayers for their children, God. And I thank you for making things work together for your good in their child's life. I don't know that this is a young child, maybe a little bit older, but yeah, he just wants you to know that you're loved and he hears you and he's going to answer your prayers, and don't grow weary. So.
Amen.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
There you go. And you get word. Awesome.
There you go. Keep listening to these guys. They're awesome.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
are some of the friendliest, loving people around. And so they're never going to have something on this segment that's not going to impact your life. So keep following, keep listening.
These guys are so busy
Tune
that
in.
I had to book them to come over here.
I know. That's the only way we can like catch up a little bit.
Hey.
It's all good. I
Yeah.
think we're going to have to invite you guys again, and also maybe have Nadia sing a song, because they have a daughter that sings amazing. And
Yes.
she, it'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
She
to like
would-
share some of her songs.
She
She's
would
always
love it.
down, man.
She
Yeah.
leaves for Romania missions trip in March. So
Yeah.
Good for her. Oh man, I'm so proud
learning
of-
to
so
let
proud
our
of that
kids
girl.
go.
Oh,
Release the fish.
Once again, Joey and Judy Salinas, thank you guys
Thank
for
you
being
guys.
here. I love you
Awesome.
guys.
thank you. We love
Thank you
love you
guys.
guys.
We love you guys so much.
So, all right, have a good
Yeah.
one. Peace, everybody.
Peace.